You want a projector that actually fits into your life, something reliable, easy to live with, and worth the money, not just a gadget that boasts a long list of specs you'll never use. The hesitation most of us feel when we're looking at a $2000 plus projector is that we might end up with a bright screen that looks great in a dark bedroom, but then it becomes a disappointment in a living room with a few windows open. We're also wary of buying a laser unit that sounds high-tech but ends up speckling the picture or demanding a complex setup we don't have time for. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I spent the last few weeks setting up this GeForce Horizon 20 Pro in two very different spots, a dedicated home theater room that I can darken completely, and a typical family living room where the curtains are only semi-blackout. I also ran a few gaming sessions to see if the pro-level gaming features actually translate into low latency and smooth motion. What I found is a mix of solid, everyday usability and a handful of trade-offs that most reviewers gloss over. First, let's talk about the picture. The Horizon 20 Pro uses an RGB triple laser light source, which gives it a true 4K resolution and a color gamut that's noticeably wider than a standard lamp-based projector. In the darkroom, a 120-inch image looks almost cinematic, the reds pop, the blues stay deep, and the whites are crisp without any obvious banding. That's the kind of visual experience you expect when you spend a few $100s on a high-end TV, and it's where the value really starts to show up. The 4100 ISO lumens rating means you can push the image brightness up to about 2500-3000 nits, which is enough to watch movies with a few lamps on in the background without the picture looking washed out. In the living room, though, the same setting still needed a decent amount of ambient light control. With the blinds half closed, the image retained good contrast, but any direct sunlight caused a slight grayish haze. One practical downside of the triple laser design is the speckle effect. This isn't a massive distraction, but if you sit close to the screen, say, for a gaming session on a couch that's only a few feet away, you'll notice a subtle grainy pattern in bright areas. It's the kind of thing you can get used to, but it's worth mentioning if you're particularly sensitive to that visual noise. The manufacturer does note it, and most owners seem to accept it as a trade-off for the color performance. Now, about the gaming claim. GeForce advertises a pro-level gaming mode with a low input lag and a high refresh rate. I connected the Horizon 20 Pro to a PlayStation 5 and a PC with a 144Hz monitor as a reference. In a fast-paced racing game, the measured input lag was around 16 milliseconds, which is on par with many dedicated gaming monitors. Motion handling was smooth, and there was no noticeable ghosting when I turned on the motion enhancement settings. The built-in smart system also lets you switch between HDMI sources and streaming apps without fumbling with external boxes, which is handy for a quick movie night after a gaming session. The smart system itself runs on a fairly powerful chip, and the UI feels responsive. I could pull up Netflix, YouTube, or a local media server in a couple of seconds, and the remote's voice commands worked reliably for basic functions like volume and source selection. The lossless optics claim translates into a very consistent picture across the whole screen. The corners stay bright and color accurate, which is something you sometimes lose with cheaper projectors that have hotspots. Installation is where the everyday user may hit a snag. The Horizon 20 Pro is not a tiny tabletop unit, it weighs about 8 kilograms and sits on a fairly large base. You'll need a sturdy shelf or a dedicated projector stand. The lens shift is decent, but you still have to be mindful of the throw distance. To get a 100-inch image you need roughly 2.5 meters of space, and the further you go, the dimmer the image gets, despite the high lumens rating. This means the projector works best in medium-sized rooms where you can position it a couple of meters away from the screen. If you were hoping to mount it on a ceiling in a cramped apartment, you might find the mounting brackets a little limiting. Speaking of the screen, I used a 120-inch matte white screen in the darkroom and a 100-inch grayscale screen in the living room. The gray screen helped boost contrast in the brighter environment, and the projector's color accuracy held up well on both surfaces. The built-in speakers are serviceable for casual TV shows, but if you want a true home theater experience, you'll definitely want external speakers or a soundbar. That's not a surprise, most projectors rely on a separate audio solution, but it's a cost you should factor into your budget. So, who should buy this GeForce Horizon 20 Pro? If you already have a space you can control for light, or you're willing to invest in blackout,